human nature doesn't change. That struggle existed 100,000 years ago. That struggle exists today. What does change is technology. 100,000 years ago, an enraged human being could maybe kill 10 other people. And today, an enraged human being can kill 100 million people. And so as technology advances, our thoughts about ethics and morality and technology and civility have to evolve. Today, we struggle with the challenge of authority. You know, Lord Acton said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the only difference between absolute power today and absolute power 10,000 years ago is today we have a company that listens to everything a billion people say. We have another company that answers the questions that 4 billion people ask. We have companies that deliver the food and all of the goods that you need to survive to hundreds of millions of people. We have one company that delivers all of the business software to 80 million corporations, indirectly serving billions and billions of employees. Now, I ask you the question, if you got ejected out of the third biggest country in the world, or if I denied you privileges to live in any of the 5 largest countries in the world, would your life go on? Probably. Now, what if you actually got canceled by Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google tomorrow? The question is, would your life go on? Stop and think a little bit about what happens if they simply turned off your account, seized your photos, turned off your messages, took your documents. What if Microsoft just denied you access privileges? Could you run a business? Could you work? It's a big question. We've never had, I used to make the joke, Apple's the most valuable company in the world because there's never been a company in the world as valuable as Apple. It legitimately is the most valuable because it can change the lives of 1 billion people over the weekend by shipping some electricity. And that is not something we struggle with 100 years ago. So the question really is, what happens if this goes on? Companies get bigger, we got big tech, governments get bigger. As the companies get bigger, when the company serves 3 billion people, then that means one bureaucrat can make one phone call to that company and potentially turn off all of the information flowing to all 3 billion people over the weekend, right? This is it's a new idea, and it's a disturbing idea. The story of Atlas Shrugged is the story of individuals struggling against the collective, and eventually they realize it's a corrupt and a rigged game, and they can't succeed at it. And the solution that John Galt offers is to withdraw from the corrupt economy. So should we follow John Galt's example? Should we just withdraw from a corrupt economy? Can we? Well, obviously we haven't. You know, if another famous writer, Robert Heinlein, he had a quote. He said, "You don't win wars by dying for your country. You win wars by making the other guy die for his country." And we don't want to be martyrs. We want to be winners. And that is the challenge we face today. There's no point in going on strike unless you've formed a union first. Just going on strike without the organization in advance is just self-inflicted martyrdom. Bitcoin is a union. I'm going to leave the thought and continue with my speech. We'll come back to it at the end. There's a freedom saga in the history of the human race. What is that saga? Somebody grows up, they struggle against the collective. Life is oppressive. They can't farm, they can't live, they can't worship, they can't celebrate, they can't breathe. So what do? Well, they go over the horizon. Beyond this horizon, we travel somewhere over the hill. After that, we go to the New World. We get in a ship. If you're a Huguenot, if you're a Protestant in Catholic land, if you're a Catholic in Protestant land, if you're a second son, at some point you're a Quaker, you get in a ship, you go to the New World. What happens after you settle the New World? Well, it gets too oppressive on the East Coast. Go west, young man. And we go west. We want to get away from too many politicians, too much government, too many well-intentioned individuals trying to help us with more laws, more government services. Well, in the 20th century, Peter and I are both aeronautical engineers. We read every science fiction writer, and the great romantic science fiction tomes from Heinlein, etc., were all about Earth is too crowded. We got to get off this planet. We got to go to space. Elon Musk channels this aspiration every day. But in general, we all grew up thinking that in the 70s and the 80s. Go to space. Now, the problem is, it turns out to be fairly expensive to go to space. We didn't quite make it. We figured out how to send millions of people to the New World, and we spent millions of people west, but we couldn't send millions of people to the moon or Mars or the next habitable G-type star. So where is the next frontier for those thirsting for freedom? Cyberspace. And here I pause and I ask you to, like Steve Jobs said, think different.